4-year-old Rilya Wilson's name meant, "Remember, I love you always," but her 15-month-long disappearance without anyone noticing it proved her name wrong. When 4-year-old Rilya Wilson's file landed on the lap of caseworker Dora Betancourt in April 2002, it was supposed to be a standard adoption case. Rilya was in the care of Geralyn Graham for over a year after Rilya's mother had her parental rights to all of her children terminated due to neglect. And now, the file was in the hands of the adoption unit. But as Dora went through the file, she noticed something startling. No one had checked on Rilya since January 2001. Because of the little girl's circumstances, she was supposed to have monthly visits with a social worker, but there were no records of visitation for 15 months. She was so bothered by the gap that she called Graham that afternoon to set up a home visit. After leaving messages, she was finally able to speak with Pamela Graham, who said that she was Geralyn's sister. Dora set up an appointment on April 18, 2002. She arrived at Graham's home just as Graham was pulling into her driveway. Dora saw only Rilya's sister Rodrigo with Graham. When Dora asked where was Rilya, Graham answered, "I thought you were bringing her here." Confused, Dora asked what she meant by that, and that's when Graham dropped the bomb. A woman claiming to be a social worker took Rilya in 2001, and she hadn't seen the little girl since. Dora called her supervisor and immediately reported the disappearance. It was soon discovered that there was no such visit in the records. Rilya was missing. By the time Rilya Wilson was born on September 29, 1996, her mother Gloria Wilson was years deep into a crippling crack addiction at only 22 years old. After being placed into a Miami, Florida foster home at the age of 14, Gloria dropped out of school and later became a stripper to make ends meet. Her first daughter, Randy, was bounced from home to home before she was given to Gloria's godparents. Randy would return to Gloria's care, but would eventually be taken away permanently after 3 occurrences of abuse were reported to the Department of Children and Families. Almost from the moment that Rilya was born, Gloria would be in and out of her little girl's life. Gloria gave Rilya to a woman named Pamaela Kendrick that she called Auntie. For 2.5 years, she would care for Rilya, and it would be the best years of her life. Pamela described Rilya as a happy, affectionate child that loved to hug everyone. She was crazy over Barney and Tickle Me Elmo toys and celebrated her birthday at Chuck E. Cheese. The family that was raising Rilya loved and adored her and would have kept her if it wasn't for DCF deciding to take Rilya away. In 1999, Gloria was pregnant with her 3rd daughter, Rodrigo, who was immediately taken away by the state. Before giving birth, Gloria met Geralyn Graham, a woman she befriended when she met Graham's daughter in a 12-step program. DCF supervisor Willie Harris placed Rodrigo in Graham's home 5 months later. Graham claimed that she was the grandmother to both Rilya and Rodrigo, despite her son's name not being listed as the father on Rilya's birth certificate. Pamela was told that the DCF supervisor wanted to keep the sisters together. In 2000, Graham called DCF and claimed that Rilya was sitting naked in feces while using swear words, a claim that Pamela denies. Rilya was removed from Pamela's care and transferred to Graham that year after she refused to let the state inspect her home. Gloria's parental rights were terminated a year after she moved to Cleveland, Ohio without her children in the year 2000. Rilya's time with Geralyn Graham was the complete opposite of her time with the Kendricks. Where the Kendricks were warm and loving, Graham was cold and stern. From the moment that Rilya arrived, Graham was distant to the 4-year-old and wouldn't even let Rilya hug her. Graham just didn't like Rilya and was very cruel to her, especially when she punished her. Here is just a sample of what we know that was done to Rilya for misbehaving. Graham would lock the girl in the laundry room for hours or days at a time. For wetting the bed, Rilya was forced to sit in a bathtub of hot water. Sometimes, she was made to sit in a cage for extended periods of time so she couldn't go anywhere. And both Geralyn and Pamela took turns beating her with switches. There was no break to the abuse, even at bedtime. It was reported that Graham would get very angry if she saw Rilya outside of her room at night, so she tied Rilya's hands together, because she claimed that Rilya would climb the refrigerator to get snacks. It isn't known when Rilya went missing, but we do know that her last visit by her social worker was in January 2000. But after investigators looked into the paperwork, it was discovered that what little records existed, much of it was falsified by Rilya's original caseworker. Rilya's original caseworker, Deborah Muskelly, was responsible for making monthly check-ins with the Wilson sisters. But from the very beginning, Muskelly slacked off at her job. Her visits to Rilya and Rodrigo were few and far between. The caseworker was so negligent that Randy's adoptive parents didn't even know they had a caseworker until Rilya was reported missing because Muskelly never visited them. It also came to light that Rilya was withdrawn from school, but it wasn't reported. Muskelly's supervisor, Willie Harris, was responsible for getting regular updates on her cases. However, he never checked any of the paperwork. Instead, he only asked her about them and would accept Muskelly's verbal answers. Harris also never tested Rilya's DNA to confirm paternity before giving Rilya to Graham, who claimed Rilya was her granddaughter. This should have been the first step completed since Graham's son's name wasn't on the birth certificate. Even reporting Rilya's disappearance was botched. The disappearance was reported to DCF supervisors on April 18. It took a full week before they even told the police. Rodrigo wasn't removed from Graham's home until May 1st. The report of the missing 4-year-old became national news and put a spotlight on the many failures of the Florida Department of Children and Families. The DCF claimed that when they did a background check, they found no criminal records on Geralyn Graham. But local newspaper The Sun Sentinel did their own background check into public records and found that Graham had 38 aliases, along with reports of her claiming to have mental illnesses. Graham also had a history of fraud and even continued to collect welfare and food stamps for Rilya. As the DCF attempted to explain their negligence, the search went national. On April 28, 2001, the decapitated body of a little black girl was found in Kansas City, Missouri, and was dubbed Precious Doe. The brutality of the murder made it national news, and police searched desperately to find her identity. When it was reported a year later that Rilya Wilson went missing, the Missouri police suspected that the two girls were one and the same. After the DNA was tested, it was confirmed that Rilya was not Precious Doe. Hundreds of thousands of posters were distributed in the U.S. as well as some Caribbean countries with a $100,000 reward. Unfortunately, even with all of the tips to the Crime Stoppers hotline, the authorities were no closer to finding her. Months went by without any credible information, and the already cold case became colder. The truth about Rilya's disappearance would have remained a mystery until August 2004, when Robin Lunceford called the police about a conversation she had with Graham. In August 2004, Graham was in jail due to a separate case of welfare and food stamp fraud. During her incarceration, she shared a cell with Robin Lunceford, and the pair developed a flirtatious relationship. Lunceford alleges Graham admitted to murdering Rilya. She also claimed that Graham told her that the little girl was evil and that she smothered Rilya with a pillow. Once she was done, she buried Rilya next to a lake so that her soul could be cleansed. According to Lunceford, Graham whispered the words, "I killed it." In March 2005, Geralyn Graham was formally charged with murder. It was an uphill battle as the Miami-Dade prosecutors didn't have a body or a crime scene. However, there was enough circumstantial evidence, including previous witness statements prior to Lunceford's call, that Graham referred to Rilya as evil and demonic to bring up charges. Graham's trial started on November 26, 2012, and it was on that day where Rilya's neglect and abuse came to light. Acquaintances and friends all reported how Graham treated Rilya compared to the more favored sister, Rodrigo. It was also revealed that Pamela Graham wasn't Geralyn Graham's sister, but her live-in lover who watched as Graham abused and neglected Rilya. Pamela claimed that she didn't stop the abuse because she was afraid of Geralyn. Pamela also revealed that the last time she saw Rilya was late December 2000. She said that one day she came home from work and Rilya was not there. Pamela asked Geralyn where was Rilya, and Geralyn answered, "She's okay, don't worry about it." Pamela threatened to call the police, but Pamela alleges that Geralyn threatened her with a hammer. Ultimately, Pamela decided not to call the police because she didn't want to get in trouble. It wasn't until the police questioned her in 2004 that she admitted the truth. Geralyn Graham was found guilty of kidnapping, child abuse, and the murder of Rilya Wilson on February 12, 2013. She was given 55 years without the possibility of parole. After Rilya's disappearance, the Florida Department of Children and Families implemented a number of reforms to prevent another tragedy like Rilya Wilson. During the investigation, it was revealed that the government agency had almost 500 children missing in their care in 2002. The Rilya Wilson Act became law in 2003, and it is now illegal for foster children not to go to school in the state. Once a foster child has missed 2 consecutive unexcused days or 7 consecutive excused days, the school must report the absences to the child's caseworker, who then performs a home visit. And if that child is missing, the police have to be contacted. Unfortunately, just because a law goes into the books doesn't guarantee its implementation. In 2011, a 10-year-old girl named Nubia Barahona was found dead and decomposing in her adoptive father's truck. Nubia and her twin brother Victor went into foster care due to reports of abuse from her birth mother. Teachers repeatedly called DCF and Nubia's caseworker to report that she was constantly dirty and that she looked like she was starving. When the caseworker finally went to Nubia's home, she didn't go in. But if she would have conducted a proper home visit, she would have found Nubia and her twin brother gagged and sitting in the bathtub. The state of Florida has hundreds of foster children that are currently missing. While reforms have been made because of Rilya Wilson, high caseloads, a revolving door of low-paid caseworkers, and a government that only seems to care when a tragedy ends up in the news makes preventing future Rilya Wilson cases unlikely. Thank you for watching the Twin Files. Don't forget to like and subscribe. So, what do you guys think about the case? We remember this because we're from South Florida and it was such a big deal back then. Writing this was really hard because you see the details as an adult, and it's just such a hard thing that this baby and these children are going through.